Today we are going to be talking about the diatonic chords of minor keys. Minor keys are a bit more complex than major keys because we have three main minor scales for each minor key. For example, let's say we're looking at the key of A minor. So first let's write out the notes in an A natural minor scale. Now we also have the A harmonic minor scale, which is and finally, we have the A melodic minor scale, which is so we have these three minor scales, the A natural minor scale, the A harmonic minor scale, and the A melodic minor scale. Now, if you already feel overwhelmed, I have two videos that go really in-depth into these three different minor scales, and perhaps you should go and watch those videos first. I have links for them in the description below. But basically, the only difference between the natural minor and the harmonic minor scale is that the harmonic minor scale has a raised seventh degree, okay? And so what does that mean? That means that the seventh note in the scale is raised by 1/2 step. So let's first look at the natural minor scale. You can think of this as sort of like the main minor scale. Even though it might not necessarily be the most commonly used minor scale, we could think of it as sort of the default minor scale. This is the standard minor scale. It is also the same as the Aeolian mode, but natural minor is sort of like our default minor, okay? And so what's the seventh note in that natural minor scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's G, right? So if we were to raise G up 1/2 step, it turns into G sharp, right? So therefore the harmonic minor scale has a raised seventh degree. Now the melodic minor scale has a raised sixth and seventh. Okay, so what is the 6th and 7th notes in the natural minor scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 6 and 7, F and G. So if we take F and we take G and we raise them both up 1/2 step, we get F sharp and G sharp. See, F sharp, G sharp. And that is what we have in the melodic minor scale. Okay, now these are the three main minor scales. I know that there are other minor scales. Sometimes I get comments on my videos that say, hey, you know, there are other minor scales out there, and yes, I do know there are many different minor scales. However, these are the three main minor scales that get associated with minor keys, okay? We can analyze this in a different key just to really let it sink in even better. So now let's look at the key of C minor, okay? So first we're going to write out the notes in a C natural minor scale, and the notes are C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, and B flat. Okay? Now remember how I said the harmonic minor scale has a raised seventh, right? So what's the seventh note in the C natural minor scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's B flat, okay? So if we raise B flat up 1/2 step, what does it become? It becomes B natural, okay? So for C harmonic minor, we have C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, and B natural. So instead of B flat, we have B natural. There's that raised seventh. And for the melodic minor scale, I said we have a raised sixth and seventh, okay? So raised sixth and seventh, right? Here's the sixth note and seventh note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we were to raise A flat by 1/2 step, what does it become? A flat becomes A natural, right? And B flat becomes B. So we have for the C melodic minor scale, C, D, E, flat, F, G, A, and B. So we have raised 6th and 7th. See, these two 6th and 7th are raised to A and B. Now, since we have these three different minor scales for each minor key, we also have three sets of diatonic chords for each minor key as well, because each of these three scales gets its own set of diatonic chords. But before you start to pull all your hair out, let's first briefly discuss what diatonic chords are. Now, I have some videos about diatonic chords for major keys, which I definitely encourage you to watch first if you have absolutely no idea what diatonic chords are. I will link those in the description below because, as I said, with major keys, they're a little more straightforward and simple. So it's good to start with those first and then tackle the minor keys. But have no fear, you will be able to understand how diatonic chords work in minor keys as well. Just keep watching this video and they will start to make more and more sense, I promise. So diatonic chords are a family of chords that are connected to a specific key. And every chord is built using notes in the corresponding scale. Let me show you what I mean. I'm taking us back to the A natural minor scale because it's the simplest one to start with, because it's just all of the white keys on the piano. So here is the A natural minor scale. So here is the A natural minor scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you got no sharps, no flats. So we could imagine that the scale goes continuously in both directions, right? Because the scale could just keep repeating itself over and over again. So after G, we could just go back to the beginning of the scale again, which is A. Then after A, we have B. Then after B, we have C. Then after C, we have D, E, and so on and so forth. And we could even go this direction too, right? Before A, we had G, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to erase that just because I don't want it to be too confusing. But anyway, the scale can just continuously go in either direction. Now, to create our diatonic chords, we are going to move up in thirds to figure out the notes in each chord. Let me show you what I mean, because it's better if I just demonstrate it rather than try to explain it. So the first diatonic chord will start with the note A, okay? And then I move up in thirds from A, and so you could also view this as sort of hopping over the next note, right? So I'm on A, I hop over B, and I get to C. Then I hop over D, and I get to E. So the three notes I'm working with are A, C, and E. And those are the first three notes that create our first diatonic chord, which is A minor, okay? So I'm going to write A minor as the first diatonic chord, okay? Now we're going to do basically the same thing with all the notes in the scale. So we're going to build a chord off of each of these 7 notes in the scale. So from A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We're going to build a chord, okay? And with each of those notes being the root note, okay? So this was the one we made with A, right? A minor. Our next chord, the second diatonic chord, will start with the note B, okay? And we're going to do the exact same thing. So we start on B, we hop over C to get to D, then we hop over E to get to F. So the 3 notes in this chord are B, D, and F, okay? And this is a B diminished chord, okay? So B diminished. That's a shorthand symbol for diminished. So this is the chord that we built off of the note B, okay? The next chord, we're going to start on C, okay? So we have C, then we hop over D, get to E, then we hop over F and get to G. So the 3 notes we have are C, E, and G. That chord is a C major chord, okay? So when you play C, E, and G together, in any order and on any instrument, you are playing a C major chord, okay? I'm just drawing these lines so that you can see the root note that each of these chords are built off of. So these are the notes in the scale, and these are the diatonic chords. So A minor is formed starting with the note A, B diminished starting with the note B, C major starting with the note C. Just hopefully that's clear. Next chord we're going to start with the note D. So we start on D, we hop over E and we get to F. We hop over G and we get to A, okay? So we have the notes D, F, and A, okay? So that, when you have D, F, and A, you are playing a D minor chord, okay? That is our 4th diatonic chord. The next chord we're going to start on E, okay? So we start on E, jump over F, we get to G, we jump over A and get to B. And this is, I'm moving up in thirds. So you can think of this as moving up in a third, or you can think of this as just hopping over the note in the scale, whichever is easier for your brain to handle, okay? So E, G, and B. When you play E, G, and B together, you're playing an E minor chord, okay? So E minor is our next diatonic chord. That's our 5th diatonic chord. The next chord, we're going to start on the note F, okay? So we start on F, we hop over G, we get to A, we move over another third, and we get to C. So F, A, and C. When you play F, A, and C, you're playing an F major chord. So F major is our next diatonic chord. And lastly, we have the 7th chord, which starts on the note G, okay? So we start on G, we hop over A, we get to B, then we hop over C and we get to D. And that we have, the notes we have are G, B, and D. And when you play G, B, and D together, you are playing a G major chord, okay? So that is the 7th chord, the 7th diatonic chord. And that is it. So the diatonic chords for A natural minor are A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, and G major. Now, this is a quick little side note, but I just want to point it out to those of you who might find it interesting. So A natural minor is the relative minor of C major. I have a video all about relative keys, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go watch that video. It's linked in the description below. But basically, all it means is that the notes in a C major scale and an A natural minor scale are exactly the same. So see, the notes in A natural minor are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's A natural minor. C major is C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Okay, so these two scales actually have the exact same notes in them, right? You can see that none of them have any sharps or flats, right? Exact same notes. They're even in the same order. They both go in alphabetical order. But for this scale, we're starting on the note A, and for this scale, we're starting on the note C. So that's what I mean when I say they are relative keys, okay? So A minor and C major, relative keys. And just how the notes are the same between both of these scales, the diatonic chords are also the same between them. So the diatonic chords of C major, the key of C major, are C major, D minor, see, look, C major, D minor, E minor, yep, same, F major, yep, same, G major, yep, same, A minor, yep, same, and B diminished, yep, same. So I think it's pretty cool to point out that the relative minor key, A minor, and C major have not only the same notes in them, but they also have the same diatonic chords. See? I wrote out the C major diatonic chords right there. You can see that they're the exact same chords as up here. The only difference is that they have different points of gravity. For example, the 1 chord, or that tonic chord in C major, is C major, whereas the 1 chord in A minor, A natural minor, is A minor. The 5 chord in C major is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's G major, right? But the 5 chord in A natural minor is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, E minor, okay? So they are the same chords, but they have different functions because they're in different places, right? E minor is the 5th degree in A natural minor, but it's the 3rd degree in C major, okay? Anyway, this was just a fun little side tangent. Don't worry about it too much if it doesn't make sense. It's just for those of you who find it interesting. Let's get back to the main video. So here are the diatonic chords of the A natural minor scale. And if I were to write these chords out as Roman numerals, they would be. So all I did was I assigned a number to each of the chords in the scale, and if it was a minor chord, I wrote it as a lowercase Roman numeral. So these 4 get lowercase Roman numerals because they're minor chords. Diminished is a type of minor chord, okay? And then the major chords I wrote with uppercase Roman numerals. So the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th, C, F, and G. Since those are major chords, they get uppercase Roman numerals, okay? So now I want us to play a 1, 4, 5, 1 chord progression in this key. So now let's play a 1, 4, 5, 1 chord progression in this key. So that would be, if I were to write out these chords, that would be A minor is the 1 chord, the 4 chord is D minor, the 5 chord is E minor, and then the 1 chord is A minor. Okay, so 1, 4, 5, 1. Now let's focus in on the 5th degree for a little bit, okay? The 5th degree is called the dominant. And if you remember from other videos of mine, the role of the dominant is to bring us back home to the tonic, which is the 1, okay? So the role of the 5, aka the dominant, is to lead us back home to the 1 chord, aka the tonic. So the role of E minor is to lead us back home to the chord A minor. Now, part of what makes a great dominant function is something called the leading tone. It's the note in a dominant chord that is a half step away from the tonic. Now let's take a quick moment to analyze leading tones, okay? So let's say I'm in the key of A major instead of A minor. So now I'm going to write out the notes in an A major scale, okay? So the notes in an A major scale are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, okay? And the diatonic chords of A major are A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished. And the dominant of A major is Well, what's the fifth degree of this key? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is E, okay? So E major is the dominant chord of A major. And let's analyze the notes in an E major chord, okay? So they are E, G sharp, and B. So let's check it out on the piano really quickly, okay? So first I'm just going to play the diatonic chords in A major, okay? So we have A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished, and then back to A major again, okay? Now, when I play this E major chord, which is the fifth degree, or the dominant chord, all right, I'm playing E, G sharp, and B. And as you can see, this note G sharp is just a half step away from that A, which is the tonic note, okay? So because that G sharp is a half step away, there's a lot of tension there that makes us want to resolve the chord, okay? See, this is A major, so E major to A major. It really wants to resolve home to that A major chord. So we have the 5 chord, a lot of tension, leading us back home to the 1 chord. So that movement of a half step from G sharp to A, is creating a lot of the tension, and that is what we call the leading tone, okay? And it's because it's a half step away from the tonic. Here with a different inversion, you can hear it again. So here is my E major chord. Here's the leading tone of G sharp, and it's going to resolve up a half step to play my A major chord. So we have the tension resolving okay? So that is what a leading tone is. Now, if we go back to the world of A natural minor, so the dominant chord in A natural minor is E minor, okay? But here's the issue. E minor doesn't function that well as a dominant because it doesn't have a leading tone. You see, the notes in an E minor chord are E, G, and B. And none of these 3 notes, E, G, and B, none of them are a half step away from the tonic, which is A, okay? So basically, this dominant chord, even though it is still serving a dominant function because it is still the dominant chord of A natural minor, it's not the most powerful dominant chord because it doesn't have a leading tone in it. There's no note in this E minor chord that is a half step away from the tonic note, which is A, okay? Now, if we wanted it to have a leading tone, we would need this G to turn into a G sharp, which would change the chord from E minor to E major, okay? Which brings me to the A harmonic minor scale. Because the A harmonic minor scale is exactly the same as the A natural minor scale, but it has the note G sharp instead of the note G natural, okay? Let me show you. Okay, so here is my A harmonic minor scale. I didn't just stop at the G sharp, I kept repeating it because we're going to figure out the diatonic chords now of this scale, okay? So we're going to do the same moving up in third thing, or the hopping over the note thing that we did with the natural minor scale, okay? So we're going to start with the note A. We're going to play A, C, and E, and when you play A, C, and E together, you are playing an A minor chord, okay? So A minor is our first diatonic chord. Next, we're going to start on B. We're going to start on B, hop over C, get to D, hop over E, get to F. So B, D, and F. That chord is a B diminished chord, okay? So far, the first 2 diatonic chords are the same, right? A minor and B diminished are the same, okay? Our next one, we're going to start on C, C to E, to G sharp. Okay, so now this is a different chord because now we're playing C augmented. So So the little plus symbol is a sign, shorthand symbol for augmented. So when you play C, E, and G sharp together, you're playing a C augmented chord, okay? And as you can see, that is different from up here. We had a C major chord, and now we have a C augmented chord. Because in C major, we have C, E, and G, and C augmented, we have C, E, G sharp, okay? So that is our third diatonic chord in a harmonic minor. Next, we're going to start on D. We're going to jump over E, go to F, jump over G sharp, and go to A. So D, F, A. That is a D minor chord. Next, we're going to start on E. Jump over F to G sharp, and jump over A, we get to B. And here we have an E major chord. So instead of E minor, we have E major. So this one's a little bit different because we have that G sharp instead of the G. Okay? Then we're going to start on F. Jump over G sharp, get to A and C. So F, A, C. That is an F major chord. So that's the same as the natural minor. Okay? And last but not least, we're going to start on G sharp. Jump over A, get to B. Jump over C, get to D. And here we have a G sharp diminished chord. Okay? And this one is also different from the G major chord. So if you look, these are our diatonic chords for A harmonic minor, and these are our diatonic chords for A natural minor. So now I'm just going to erase this and move these chords up just so I have a little more room. So now we can compare the diatonic chords of these two scales, okay? So we're comparing the diatonic chords of A natural minor and the diatonic chords of A harmonic minor, okay? So they both have an A minor chord, they both have a B diminished chord. Now the third chord is different, and here it's a C major, and here it's a C augmented. The fourth chord is D minor for both of them. Now the fifth chord is also different. We have an E minor versus an E major, okay? Now the sixth chord, we have an F major in both places, so that's the same. And the seventh chord is also different. We have a G major and a G sharp diminished in A harmonic minor, okay? So three of the chords are different, right? This one, this C, C sharp, this one, E minor and E, and this one. But the rest of the chords are all the same between the two scales. But hey, check it out. A harmonic minor has a much stronger dominant chord, right? This is our dominant chord, the fifth, right? Because it has an E major instead of the E minor chord. And the chord E major has that leading tone of G sharp in it, which is a half step away from the tonic, which is A, okay? So now if I were to play a 1-4-5-1 chord progression in A harmonic minor, I would play A minor, then D minor, then E major, and then back to A minor again, okay? So here you can see the difference between the 1-4-5-1 chord progression between these two. The A minor is the same, the D minor is the same. Instead of E minor, we have E major, and then we go back to the 1, which is also A minor. And let's just listen to what those two chord progressions sound like, okay? So we're in the key of A minor. I'm playing an A minor chord, okay? So if I were to play the chord progression with A natural minor, so I would play A minor, D minor, E minor, and then back to A minor. Okay, it sounds good, right? And that E minor does feel like it's resolving back home to the A minor. It's still serving its dominant function, right? Is that E minor going back to A minor? But now listen to it with that E major, and listen to how that sounds. We have A minor, D minor, here's the E major, going back home to A minor. Isn't that even stronger? I mean, as I said, E minor does resolve to A minor, but E major has a really strong da-da resolution from E major to A minor, right? That's just an even more powerful push to resolve back home to the tonic. And that's because in that E major chord, we have that G sharp, which resolves up to A half step away. It's that leading tone note of G sharp going to A, okay? So the moral of the story is that the harmonic minor scale provides us with an even stronger dominant chord than the natural minor scale. Perhaps that is one reason why people began using the harmonic minor scale and using the diatonic chords from the harmonic minor scale when playing songs in minor keys. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment to say hey. Now, finally, let's analyze the diatonic chords of our third minor scale, the melodic minor scale. Now, I mentioned earlier in this video that the melodic minor scale has a raised 6th and 7th degree when compared to the natural minor scale. So that means a melodic minor scale is A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp, because we have that raised 6th and 7th, okay? And then I just kept writing it so that we could do the little hop over thing, also known as moving up in thirds. Okay, so now we're going to figure out the diatonic chords of a melodic minor. So the first chord, we're going to start on A, so we have A, jump over B, we get to C, jump over D, we get to E, so A, C, E, that is an A minor chord. That's our first diatonic chord. Next chord, we're starting on B, B, D, F sharp, okay, and this is a B minor chord. So this one is different. Now the third chord starts on C, jump over D, we go to E, jump over F sharp, we go to G sharp. This is a C augmented chord. So same as the harmonic minor. Next chord, our fourth chord, we're starting on D, D, F sharp, and A. When you play those three notes together, you're playing a D major chord. So this one is different from the D minor. Then I'm just going to start on E to G sharp to B. This is an E major chord, so same as the harmonic minor. Then we have F sharp. I'm going to hop over G sharp to A, get to A, hop over B to get to C. This is an F sharp diminished chord, so this one is different. Okay, then we're going to start on G sharp, hop over A to B, hop over C, we get to D. This is a G sharp diminished chord. And there you have it. These are our diatonic chords in a melodic minor. I'm going to erase this just so I can move the chords up so we have a little more room. So, holy moly, look how many diatonic chords we have for the key of A minor. Because all of these chords are diatonic chords in the key of A minor. When you're playing in a major key, you only have 7 diatonic chord choices if you're playing triads. But when you're playing triads in a minor key, you have 13 different choices. Because if I were to write them all out, we can do it together, okay? So A minor, just so you can see how I got to the number 13. Okay, so A minor, they're all A minor, okay, for the first degree. For the second degree, we have both B diminished and B minor. So I'll write both of those, B diminished and B minor. For the third degree, we have C major and C augmented. See? So those are the two options there. So I'll have C major and C augmented. For the fourth degree, we have, again, two options, D minor or D major. D minor or D major. I'm going to draw a line here just to make it less confusing. Okay? For the fifth degree, we have two options, E minor or E major. So E minor or E major. I'm going to have to move to a new row because we have so many chord options. Okay? Then we have, for the sixth degree, we have F major or F sharp diminished. F major or F sharp diminished. And then the seventh degree, we have, again, two options, G major or G sharp diminished. And let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different chord options. That is pretty wild, isn't it? And I remember when I first learned this, I thought to myself, oh my god, I hate minor keys. This is so complicated. But, you know, over time, I began to appreciate how awesome it was that minor keys have so many beautiful options, because there are just so many potential colors and sounds in these different chords. It's really like you have a wider variety of colors in your color palette to paint with, and that's really a beautiful thing. Of course, you don't ever have to just use diatonic chords when you're playing a song. You can always use any chord you want. But if we're just looking at the diatonic chords of a key, you have so many more options with a minor key, and that's a really beautiful thing, actually. My good friend and teacher, Vinicius Vivas, who, if you don't know him already, you should definitely check him out. He's an incredible ukulele player and teacher. And we were talking about minor keys the other day, and he mentioned a good example of how many different colors we have in minor keys. I mean, there are a ton of great examples, but this is one that a lot of people know, is if we look at the verse in While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles. So the chords are A minor,
C major, F sharp diminished, F major, A minor, G, D over F sharp, and then E major.
So if we were to listen to this chord progression, we have, it sounds like this. Right? Now, if we were to look at these chords, so all of these chords are diatonic, meaning they are chords that are part of the key of A minor. But let's check it out. We're using chords from all the different scales. We have A minor is in all three of them, right? C major is from A natural minor. F sharp diminished is from A melodic minor. F major is from A harmonic minor and A natural minor. A minor, again, is from all of them. G major is from the natural minor. D major is from the melodic minor scale. And E major is from the harmonic minor scale and the melodic minor scale. So we're using chords from all three of these different scales, and yet they're still diatonic. And it's pretty astonishing that all of those chords are diatonic because they sound quite rich, right? And they're all triad chords. We don't have any seventh chords. You know, normally when we listen to diatonic triad chords of major keys, the chords, they sound pretty basic. Dare I say, even a little boring. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but normally diatonic chords in major keys, I tend to be drawn to songs that aren't just filled with diatonic chords in major keys. Because to me, it's just a little boring. Now, I'm probably not in the majority. A lot of people do like the sound of those sort of predictable diatonic chords in major keys, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I don't even want to call them boring because they're really not boring. I'm just saying they're not quite as rich and interesting to me as when I hear a song that has non-diatonic chords in it, or chords that have seventh chords, or just more interesting colors. That's sort of what I'm drawn to naturally. But since we're in a minor key, the diatonic chords actually sound very rich and varied, and that's because we have so many beautiful diatonic chord choices in minor keys. Look, we have 13 different choices. So if you just listen to it, it's pretty astonishing that none of these are seventh chords, or, you know, or that they're all just diatonic chords in the minor key. Isn't that so beautiful? Now we can also have diatonic seventh chords in minor keys, and when I say seventh chords, I mean chords that have 4 notes in them. But I'm going to get into that in a different video, and when I do make that video, I will try to remember to post a link to it in the description below. And if I haven't done that, please remind me to do so in the comments. Speaking of which, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. It really helps my channel out a lot when you do that. And if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Gracie Terzian, and I post a video once a week here on YouTube. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so you know whenever I post a new video. Now, in my follow-up video, we are going to go even more in depth, as I said, analyzing the seventh chords for minor keys, as well as some exercises you can do to really put this into practice. I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to wrap it up here right now. However, if you do want to practice what we learned in this video more, I have printable PDF worksheets for this lesson, as well as many of my other theory lessons, which you can download in a link in the description below. Having those PDF worksheets and quizzes really helps you practice and reinforce the things we learn in these lessons. So check them out if you want to get better at music. I really hope this video has been helpful. Stay tuned for my follow-up video where we will go even more in depth into these minor keys, the diatonic chords of the minor keys, how we can actually practice these with some fun exercises. And that is it. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and I will see y'all next week.